August 13th, 2018. Frederick, Colorado.
The house was quiet, too quiet. Inside, Shanann Watts, 15 weeks pregnant, was already dead,
And her daughters, Bella and Celeste, were still alive. Chris Watts was behind the wheel. His two little girls sat beside the body of their mother. Silent, confused, still hoping. The sun was rising, but for them, everything was going dark. Bella whispered, "Daddy, what's wrong with Mommy?" Chris didn't answer. They drove for 45 minutes
to a remote oil site.
That's where the screaming began. The autopsy would later reveal the truth, and it was far more horrifying than what Chris had told police. One detail changed everything. What did the coroner find? Why did Bella fight so hard? And why did Chris lie again and again? This isn't fiction. Every word you're about to hear really happened. Subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story, because monsters don't live in movies. They live in plain sight.
August 15th, 2018. Frederick, Colorado, 11:45 a.m.
The interrogation room was silent, cold. Chris Watts sat across from two detectives. His body looked calm, but his fingers twitched. His eyes darted. The mask he wore for years was beginning to crack. The day before, he had done interviews with local news. He pleaded for his wife and daughters to come home. "Shanann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back," he said, looking into the camera. "We miss you. We need you." But by that morning, investigators already had doubts. His story was thin. His emotions felt rehearsed. And then, they got a tip. Shanann's friend, Nicole Atkinson, had called police when Shanann didn't show up for a doctor's appointment. Nicole knew something was wrong. She never missed appointments. She was excited about this baby, Nicole told them. She would never leave the girls. Officers searched the Watts home. Something didn't sit right. Shanann's purse was still there. Her medication, her phone, even her car. And the girls' blankets were missing. The next day, Chris was brought in again. This time, detectives pushed harder, and Chris broke. But not fully. He didn't tell the truth. Not yet. Instead, he told a new lie, one that blamed Shanann. He said he saw her on the baby monitor, strangling their daughter Celeste. He said he lost it, claimed he killed Shanann in a rage. But detectives didn't believe him, and soon, neither would the public. Later that day, Chris led investigators to an oil field where he worked. It was remote, flat, surrounded by silence. He pointed to a pair of oil tanks. Inside were his daughters. Nearby, buried in a shallow grave, was Shanann. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story, because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. The coroner's office released the autopsy reports weeks later, and what they revealed was even worse than anyone imagined.
Shanann Watts had been strangled. Manual strangulation, bruises around her neck, broken hyoid bone, petechiae in her eyes. Her unborn son, Nico, died inside her.
Bella and Celeste, just 4 and 3 years old, had been smothered. Tiny wounds inside their mouths, bruising on their frenulum. No signs of drugs or alcohol, but what haunted people most were the fibers, oil, found inside their lungs. That meant they were placed in the tanks while still alive. Bella had defensive wounds. She fought, bit her tongue, fought for her life. Celeste's injuries were similar, signs of pressure, panic. These weren't quick deaths. They were slow, silent, and deliberate. The entire country reeled. August 16th, 2018. Frederick, Colorado. The sun rose over a town forever changed. Denver, 7. Colorado News, KMGH.
Chris Watts had confessed to murdering his pregnant wife, Shanann, and their 2 young daughters, Bella and Celeste. The details were horrifying. Denver, 7. Colorado News, KMGH, 9 News, 9 News, 9. Shanann was found in a shallow grave, wearing a purple t-shirt and underwear. Her body showed signs of strangulation, with bruises on her neck and face. Her unborn son, Nico, was partially expelled from her body, a tragic indication of the violence she endured. Denver, 7 Colorado News, KMGH.
Bella and Celeste were discovered submerged in crude oil tanks at Chris's worksite. Bella, dressed in a pink pajama top with hearts and butterflies, had injuries indicating she fought for her life, bite marks on her tongue, and bruises on her jaw. Celeste, wearing a pink and black t-shirt and a diaper, showed no visible injuries, but was smothered like her sister. Wikipedia +1, Denver 7, Colorado News.
Community was in shock. Vigils were held, and tributes poured in for the victims. The Watts family home became a memorial site, adorned with flowers, stuffed animals, and heartfelt messages. Chris Watts was arrested and charged with multiple counts, including first-degree murder and unlawful termination of a pregnancy. He later pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty and was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole. The case garnered national attention, leading to documentaries and widespread media coverage. It served as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors.
Today, Chris Watts remains incarcerated, serving his sentence in a maximum security prison. The memory of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and unborn Nico lives on, a testament to the lives tragically cut short. August 13th, 2018. Frederick, Colorado, 1:48 a.m.
She was just 15 weeks pregnant. Her daughters, barely out of toddlerhood.
And now, they were missing. The house was quiet, too quiet, but the baby monitors were still on, the bed sheets still warm. Shanann Watts had vanished. So had Bella and Celeste. Chris, her husband, called friends, played the part, but something felt off. The neighbors noticed. So did the police. A baby blanket was left on the couch. Her phone and purse still in the kitchen. No signs of forced entry, just silence. And one man, acting like nothing happened. But behind his smile was something darker. Something cold. What kind of father does this? How could he face the cameras? And what would the autopsy later reveal that no one could ever forget? This is not fiction. It's all real.
You can check the facts yourself.
Subscribe to @Unbelievable True Story. Because monsters don't always wear masks. Sometimes they say, "I love you," before they kill. August 13th, 2018. Shanann Watts arrived home at 1:48 a.m. after a business trip. A friend had dropped her off. She walked into her home, tired, pregnant, and unaware it would be the last time she'd ever step inside. She never made it to morning. By 12 p.m. that same day, her friend Nicole grew concerned. Shanann missed a doctor's appointment. She wasn't answering texts, calls, nothing.
Nicole drove to the house. Knocked. No answer. She called Chris, who was supposed to be at work. He claimed he didn't know where they were.
Police arrived. The door was unlocked. No one was inside, but Shanann's car, still in the garage, her purse, wallet, phone, all inside, even her wedding ring, left on the nightstand. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Chris seemed calm, too calm. He told police Shanann said she was taking the girls to a friend's house after an emotional talk about separating. But nothing about that made sense. No mother vanishes with 2 little girls, leaves everything behind, and tells no one. By the next morning, the story had gone national. News stations broadcast his plea. Chris Watts stood in front of reporters, begging for his wife and daughters to come home. But his eyes were cold, his voice flat, his words hollow. The world watched, and something didn't sit right. Investigators noticed it too. Within 48 hours, the FBI and Colorado Bureau of Investigation were involved. They asked Chris to take a polygraph. He agreed. He failed badly. And then, the mask cracked. Chris asked to speak with his father. In a quiet interview room, he whispered the words that would haunt America forever. "I killed her." But he didn't stop there. He claimed Shanann killed the girls. And in a rage, he killed her. Police didn't buy it. They pressed harder. What they discovered was worse than anyone imagined. And it was only the beginning. The autopsy results hit harder than anyone expected. Cold facts written in black ink that revealed a truth more horrifying than any rumor. Shanann Watts, 34 years old, pregnant. Her unborn child, Nico, never had a chance. Her body showed no defensive wounds, no sign she fought back. Her cause of death, strangulation, slow, cruel, personal. There were traces of bruising on her neck, a fractured hyoid bone, petechial hemorrhaging around the eyes, telltale signs of manual strangulation. Her time of death? Estimated between late night August 12th and early morning August 13th. She was likely killed in her bed. Dr. Michael Burson, the forensic pathologist, noted something chilling in his report. She would have been conscious for 10 to 20 seconds, possibly up to 2 minutes, aware, struggling to breathe. Her last moments were spent in silence and terror, at the hands of someone she loved. And then, the report on the girls came in. Bella Watts, age 4, cause of death, asphyxiation due to smothering. But there were signs that Bella had fought. Her injuries showed that she struggled, fought for air, bit her tongue, scratched at her own face. And one phrase in the report shattered everyone. Defensive injuries present. Bella likely died knowing. She may have watched her sister, Celeste, go first. Celeste, 3 years old, also smothered. But she didn't have the same injuries as Bella. No signs of resistance. She may not have understood. She may not have had time. The oil tanks they were found in were 8 inches in diameter at the opening. Chris Watts had shoved their small bodies into those holes. Shanann was buried in a shallow grave nearby. It was a crime of unbearable cruelty, a betrayal beyond words. And yet, Chris confessed with eerie calm. He told investigators he just snapped, that he strangled Shanann after she told him he'd never see the kids again. But the evidence didn't support that. He didn't snap. He had planned this. He researched methods. He texted his mistress, Nicole Kessinger, cold and calculated messages during and after the killings. He even offered to help search for his wife and daughters, held interviews, pleaded for their return, knowing exactly what he had done. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself.
If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story, because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. Chris Watts sat alone in the interrogation room.
His hands were folded. No tears, no panic.
Detectives played footage of his television interview, the one where he begged for his family's safe return.
They watched his body language, analyzed every word. When the polygraph results came in, the technician didn't sugarcoat it. "You failed the test," she told him, "and I think you already know that." Chris exhaled, quiet, then whispered, "Can I talk to my dad?" They brought in Ronnie Watts. Only then did Chris begin to crack.
He claimed Shanann had killed the girls, that, in a rage, he killed her in return.
But that story quickly fell apart. There were no signs Shanann harmed the girls. Only Chris's DNA, his actions, his choices. Soon after, he changed his story again. He admitted to killing them all. He never gave a reason that made sense. He said he wanted a new life, freedom, to be with Nickel. But what kind of man kills his entire family for freedom? Nickel Kessinger cooperated with police. She said she had no idea what Chris was capable of, that she believed he was separated, that he had promised a new life. She later went into hiding, changed her identity. The world saw her as a key figure in the case, but she was never charged. Meanwhile, the nation watched the courtroom.
Chris pled guilty to 9 counts, including 5 counts of first-degree murder. He received 5 life sentences, no possibility of parole.
He was sent to a maximum security prison, far from Colorado, for his own safety. But no sentence could bring back Shanann, or Bella, or Celeste, or Nico. The aftermath of the Watts murders left a wound on the nation's heart, one that never truly healed. In the weeks that followed, people across the country gathered for candlelight vigils. Strangers wept for a family they never knew. Balloons floated into the sky with the names Shanann, Bella, Celeste, Nico written in marker. People placed teddy bears on sidewalks. The town of Frederick, Colorado would never feel the same again.
Shanann's family, the Rucheks, stood strong in front of the cameras. Frank, her father, spoke with tears in his eyes. She was a wonderful mother, the best daughter. She loved those girls more than anything. They couldn't understand how it happened.
How a man who smiled in photos, who went to birthday parties and barbecues, could be capable of something so dark.
Even seasoned investigators admitted it disturbed them.
Detective Tammy Lee, one of the agents who interrogated Chris, later said,
"It was like looking into the eyes of a void, no remorse, no soul."
And yet, the public obsession with the case grew. People dissected every second of the interrogation tapes. They studied Chris's body language, his calm tone, the way he folded laundry as he described the murders. Netflix released a documentary, American Murder: The Family Next Door. It pulled from Shanann's own videos and texts. It gave the world a glimpse into what seemed like a perfect life, and how wrong we were. But behind the documentaries and headlines, there were children's toys still sitting in an empty house. There was a nursery that would never be used.
There was silence where laughter once lived.
And Chris? In prison, he found religion. He claimed he had repented, that he'd found God. He began writing letters, some to fans, some to reporters. He even offered explanations, but none brought peace. They all circled back to one truth. He chose to destroy the people who loved him most. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the sentence. 5 life terms. No chance of parole.
3 consecutive, 2 concurrent, plus 48 years for unlawful termination of a pregnancy. and 36 years for tampering with a body.
Chris didn't cry. He didn't beg. He just sat there, hollow. Shanann's parents spoke to the court. Their voices cracked, their hearts broken beyond repair. Her father, Frank Rzucek, said, "We trusted you. You were part of our family, and you took our daughter, our grandchildren. You took everything." The judge didn't hold back either.
"This is the most inhumane and vicious crime I've handled in my career," he said.
Outside the courtroom, reporters surrounded the courthouse. The public couldn't stop watching.
Not just because of the horror, but because of the deception.
Chris Watts had worn the mask of the perfect husband, but behind closed doors, he was planning murder. Shanann's social media posts, full of love, laughter, and positivity, became haunting reminders of what was lost. Videos of Bella singing "My Daddy is a Hero" played on the news. Photos of Celeste blowing out birthday candles. Images of Shanann cradling her baby bump, smiling, hopeful. It all felt unbearable.
The courtroom was silent as the sentence was read.
5 life sentences, no possibility of parole. 3 consecutive, 2 concurrent. Plus 48 years for the unlawful termination of Shanann's pregnancy. Another 36 years for tampering with the bodies of his daughters. Chris Watts didn't cry. He didn't flinch. He just stood there, pale, blank, as if his soul had already left.
Shanann's family wept in the front row.
Her father, Frank Rzucek, stood and spoke through tears. "We trusted you. We welcomed you into our family. And you took everything from us. My daughter, my grandbabies. You took our hearts and crushed them."
The judge looked directly at Chris.
"This is perhaps the most inhumane and senseless crime I have handled in my career," he said. "The brutality, the calculated nature, the betrayal, it is unfathomable." Outside, a crowd had gathered, dozens of news crews, onlookers, candlelight vigils. The story had pierced the heart of America, not just because of what Chris did, but because of who he pretended to be. A loving husband, a devoted father, a smiling family man. Shanann's social media had painted a picture of happiness, of a future. Photos of her baby bump, videos of Bella singing "My Daddy is a Hero."
Celeste laughing as she played in the living room.
All of it now felt like a lie wrapped in tragedy. The world had seen these little girls grow through videos, posts, and family memories.
And now, their futures had been erased by the very man who promised to protect them.
This is not fiction. It's all real.
You can check the facts yourself.
Subscribe to @Unbelievable True Story. Because monsters don't always wear masks. Sometimes they say, "I love you," before they kill.
This is not fiction. Every detail is part of a real case you can verify yourself. And now, the house in Frederick, Colorado, sits empty. The family photos are gone. The laughter, erased. But the memory lingers. 4 lives taken by the one they trusted most. Have you heard this story before? What do you think truly happened in that house? If you're drawn to real stories that stay with you, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because every week, we reveal the darkest truths hidden in plain sight. Watch the next video on your screen, or dive into our full playlist of real mysteries and crimes. The next story might be even more shocking.